Complements of events. If the probability that your DVD player breaks down before the extended warranty expires is 0.004, what is the probability that the player will not break down before the warranty expires? We'll use the complement formula for probabilities to solve this problem. Now, the complement is just the opposite of an event. Our problem tells us the probability that the DVD player breaks down. The opposite of that is that the DVD player will not break down. And that's what we want to find. So we want to find the opposite of what we're given. That means we'll use the complement formula. We're given that the DVD player breaks down has a probability of 0.004. So the probability of my event is 0.004. Now the complement formula equals 1 minus the probability. So we'll just substitute in our answer for the probability to find the probability of the complement. So we have 1 minus 0.004, and when we do that on the calculator, we get 0.996. So the probability of the complement, which is the probability that the DVD player will not break, is 0.996. And this is the final answer to the problem. If 6 coins are flipped, what is the probability of obtaining at least one head? Sometimes using the complement is easier than finding what we're asked. If we know the complement, then we can easily go back to find the original probability of the event. That's what we're going to do in this case. That's because we're flipping 6 coins, and the number of outcomes of flipping 6 coins is represented by 2 to the 6th power, which is 64 different outcomes. So if we wanted to find the probability of obtaining at least one head, we would have to list all 64 outcomes and then circle the ones that had at least one head represented. Now that we know that the complement formula can be used, we need to identify what the complement of the event is. So the event is the probability of obtaining at least one head. Now the complement is the opposite of that. So the opposite of obtaining at least one head is obtaining no heads. Now this is easier to find because the outcome for obtaining no heads is just all tails. If we flipped 6 coins, we would have T, 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 T. So we would have all tails for all 6 coins. That's the only outcome where no heads appear. So the probability of the complement is the number of times that the complement occurs over all possible outcomes. So the number of times that no heads occur is just 1 time. And then all possible outcomes, again, is represented by 2 to the 6th power. That's because we have 2 outcomes per flip. We can either get a heads or a tails on one flip of a coin. But we're flipping 6 coins, so that means we're multiplying 2 to itself 6 times. So the probability is 1 over 64. Again, this is the probability of the complement, or of obtaining no heads. I want to find the probability of obtaining at least one head. So this is going to be my P, or probability of the event. Now, I can use the complement formula and substitute the probability that I found for the complement to calculate the probability of the event. So we'll just substitute the 1 over 64 for the probability of the complement, and that equals 1 minus the probability of the event, which is obtaining at least one head. Now I'll just solve this formula. To do that, we'll isolate the probability of E by subtracting 1 from both sides. We have 1 over 64 minus 1 equals the negative of the probability of E. Now, I need a common denominator, and the number 1 can be written as a fraction by just placing any number over itself. Since I want a common denominator of 64, I'll just rewrite 1 as 64 over 64. So we'll go up here and finish our calculation. Now that I have the two fractions with the same denominator, I can just keep the denominator on the bottom and then subtract the numerators. So 1 minus 64 is a negative 63, and that equals the negative of the probability of E. Now, I don't want a negative probability, I want a positive probability, so I'm going to divide both sides by negative 1. Dividing by negative 1 is the same as multiplying by negative 1. So negative 1 times negative 63 is a positive 63, so I have 63 over 64 equals the probability of the event. And again, the event is the obtaining at least one head, so my answer is 63 over 64.